The story begins in a landscape most would consider worthless, endless desert, scorching heat, and scattered tribes with no unified identity. Yet this apparent weakness contained a hidden strength. Survival in such harsh conditions required social structures built entirely on loyalty, kinship, and personal bonds rather than abstract institutions. When Abdul Aziz ibn Saud began his campaign in 1902, he wasn't creating a nation-state in the European sense. He was building a family enterprise that would control territory, people, and eventually resources through a web of marriages, alliances, and calculated force. The 1930s oil discovery didn't just add wealth to an existing system. It fundamentally rewired the relationship between ruler and ruled. In every traditional society, including Western ones, power ultimately rested on an exchange, protection and services in return for taxes and loyalty. This exchange created friction, negotiation, and eventually rights. Oil severed that connection completely. Imagine a farmer who suddenly discovers his land sits atop an underground river of liquid gold that the entire world desperately needs. He no longer needs to negotiate with his neighbors, attract workers, or convince anyone of anything. The world comes to him checkbook in hand. This was Saudi Arabia's position, but magnified to a civilizational scale. Western democracies evolved through centuries of struggle between those who held power and those who funded it. Every parliament, every constitution, every voting right emerged from this fundamental tension. The Saudi system bypassed this entirely by reversing the flow. Instead of extracting wealth from society, it injected wealth into society. Citizens didn't fund the state funded citizens. This created what scholars call a rentier state, but the implications go far deeper than academic terminology suggests. When people receive benefits rather than earn rights, their relationship to power fundamentally changes. Gratitude replaces demands. Dependence replaces autonomy. Patience replaces pressure. By the 1970s, something remarkable had occurred. The global economy had become structurally dependent on a single family's cooperation, not through conquest or innovation, but through geological accident combined with strategic patience. When oil prices quadrupled during the 1973 crisis, it exposed a truth most preferred to ignore. Modern civilization runs on energy, and energy means oil, and oil means Saudi Arabia. The petrodollar system that emerged wasn't a conspiracy, it was a logical response to this reality. Saudi Arabia earned dollars selling oil. Those dollars flowed back into Western banks, bonds, and assets. This created a circulatory system where Saudi financial health became inseparable from Western financial stability. You can't sanction what you depend on. You can't isolate what keeps your system liquid. Western observers consistently misread the Saudi system because they apply the wrong metrics. They look for democratic legitimacy, civil society, institutional independence, all the markers of Western stability. When these are absent, they predict collapse. But they miss the fundamental point. Systems don't need legitimacy if they control distribution. A government that doesn't tax doesn't need to explain itself. A dynasty that subsidizes rather than extracts doesn't face the same accountability pressures. This is why the dynasty has survived oil price crashes, regional wars, internal dissent, and global criticism that would topple most governments. It doesn't govern through popularity, it governs through necessity. Today, the House of Saud sits at the intersection of multiple global systems simultaneously. Energy markets, financial flows, security arrangements, currency stability, geopolitical balance, all run through Riyadh to some degree. This isn't accident. It's decades of deliberate positioning. Every oil contract, every weapons purchase, every financial investment, every diplomatic alignment, each one adds another thread to a web of mutual dependence. The dynasty doesn't need to be loved. It needs to be needed. And need, once established at systemic scale, is far more durable than affection. What the Saudi story reveals isn't unique to oil or to monarchies. It's a broader truth about power in complex systems. Control over critical choke points matters more than popular support. The dynasty understood something many democratic societies still resist. Dependency creates its own form of stability. Not through consent, but through necessity. This is why attempts to isolate, sanction, or pressure the kingdom consistently fall short of expectations. The more integrated a power becomes, the harder it is to dislodge without damaging the system itself. The only genuine threat to this model isn't political opposition or moral pressure. It's technological obsolescence. If the world truly transitions away from oil, the leverage disappears. But here's the catch. That transition takes decades, and the dynasty knows it. Every year of delay is another year to diversify, to invest, to reposition. The same patient, generational thinking that built the oil-based system is now being applied to building beyond it. Sovereign wealth funds, technology investments, tourism infrastructure, financial diversification, these aren't panic moves. They're the same strategy applied to a new context. Position yourself where others must pass through. The fundamental strategy isn't about being the strongest or the most popular. It's about becoming unavoidable. When you control a critical bottleneck that everyone needs to pass through, you don't have to compete for power. Power flows to you automatically because there's no alternative route. This is the essence of strategic positioning. Place yourself at the intersection where necessity, not choice, determines the relationship. The story of the House of Saud strips away comfortable illusions about how power actually works in the modern world. It's not about having the biggest army, the most votes, or the best ideas. It's about controlling what others cannot do without. Oil was that commodity for a century. But the principle applies far beyond energy. Data, rare earth minerals, semiconductor manufacturing, financial clearing systems, shipping choke points. Modern power flows through infrastructure, not ideology. Those who control the infrastructure don't need to convince anyone of anything. They just need to keep the system running and collect the rent. The House of Saud didn't break the rules of power. They understood them better than most. Legitimacy is fragile. Dependency is durable. Elections create turnover.
Infrastructure créate permanence.
This isn't a moral judgment, it's a structural observation. And those who ignore structure in favor of sentiment will keep misunderstanding why certain powers endure while others fade.